So getting into the session today, as I said, COSOL as an organisation, we're presenting this digitising work management planning for success. So first of all, I just want to say welcome and thank you to everyone for joining us today. Probably a couple of pieces of housekeeping just to run through to allow people to understand a little bit around the format that we're going to run through today, as well as, kind of questions, because I know people will be keen to ask from Sunil as well as Sam. Just to kind of get a hello from both. As I said, thrilled to have Sunil joining us today from CITIC Pacific. Sunil, hello, and Sam, who's from our OnPlan team. Thank you. Good for you to give us a wave. Excellent. So, as I said, Sunil's going to share firsthand today his insight into modernising asset management with OnPlan, while still protecting the core systems and drive reliability and performance every day. So he's really going to give us a bit of a dive into the journey that he's been on and what he's learned along the way. So moving on to first, I suppose you may be wondering, for those of you that don't know us, who are COSOL, and to give you a very kind of broad look, and I won't spend too much time on this, but COSOL is a really proudly Australian owned and operated business, and we've been in business for over 25 years. We actually celebrated that last week, so it was a birthday of sorts. Now, our global headquarters is based in Brisbane, but we have offices across the country in Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. We also have North American operations, which are headquartered out of Denver. And we're an organisation that is a leader in asset-centric digital transformation. And we really kind of care about customers in asset-intensive environments. So energy and utilities, infrastructure, government and natural resources are areas that we play. To give you a very top line on who we are as an organisation and what we provide, we're a data-led asset management organisation, and we really have three core offerings. And this is actually some new branding that's coming out from COSOL, so you're getting a sneak peek today, which is great. But we split the services into three main areas. One is our asset management services that covers across business, operation, processes and people. So everything from strategic asset planning, operational improvement and optimization, as well as things like master data, resources within asset management and workforce training. The second part is around digital asset management. You'll see within here, we have capabilities across system advisory and assessment, managed systems and optimizations, data lifecycle management. And then today, one of the areas that we'll talk about is one of our add-ons. COSOL has a number of proprietary solutions that we work with organizations within kind of asset management, and OnPlan's what we'll talk about today. And lastly, asset management as a service, which as an organisation, we provide capabilities to be an ongoing partner for organisations across a number of elements, as you'll see in that right-hand side, across their kind of asset management strategies. So let's begin, I suppose, with the truth that every operation leader knows too well. The challenge itself isn't actually choosing innovation, it's navigating it without capsizing what already works. So in today's session, we're diving really today into hidden icebergs and then how often they derail digital transformation. So we'll look at overlooked legacy dependencies, to change fatigue, to data chaos. But more importantly, what we're going to do in leaning on Sunil and his journey is today we're going to look at how we steer around those icebergs with the right combination of experience, tools, and of course, timing. The reason is, and again, we wouldn't be doing it right if we weren't really taking a viewpoint from kind of asset management, because success in this space doesn't just happen, it's actually engineered. So the product is of clear vision, expert guidance, and intentionally staged execution. And that blends together with progress with operational confidence. So with that said, we're going to have a look at how success within this area has been engineered. So let's get started. Sam, it's over to you.
Thanks, Matt. And welcome everybody. I'd like to start off with maybe just highlighting some of the common challenges we've encountered along the way in maintenance operations. We found the frustrations associated with these challenges become the big drivers for digitisation change. As I go through them, feel free to give us a bit of a thumbs up if you can relate to any of these, maybe even pop in the chat any we might have missed. We'd love to get your feedback on this. But I will go into some of these just one by one very quickly. With inefficient maintenance, for instance, traditional processes are slow. They're onerous and often error-prone as well, leading to more downtime and inefficiencies. In a world where everyone is used to having the latest information at their fingertips in their personal lives, we're still operating with binders and folders of paper for critical tasks. Then you've got knowledge and data silos. Critical maintenance knowledge is fragmented across departments, often even individuals. The latest docs are not necessarily readily available, and capturing data, but then not recording it or even connecting it is happening all the time. With integration gaps, you've got ERP systems that lack the tools for effective maintenance, often leading to broken workflows and even data quality issues. And then you've got safety compliance risks. Inconsistent and fragmented practices create significant risks for personnel and equipment. Not having access to the latest version of a document can be catastrophic in certain circumstances. And then you've got skill shortages. This, I think, will be something many of our audience will be able to relate to. But we've got an aging workforce with retiring technicians with really high technical skills, and a lack of new skilled workers coming into the workforce makes operational accuracy and efficiency a problem. Time to upskill those workers can be to no avail, especially if they move on quickly. With those challenges in mind, digital transformation makes sense. Realistically, it's inevitable. Asset-intensive industries everywhere are already embracing advanced digital solutions like digital twinning, VR training, remote inspections, even zero-entry mining. These are all part of the Industry 4.0 movement that we're seeing. But at their core, these initiatives focus on safer, better, and more work. But they all rely on rich data availability about your assets to be truly effective and reliable. And that's critical because so much asset data is still either lost on pieces of paper or locked away on a PDF document on a server somewhere. Even if your data is captured digitally somewhere, the chances are it's still sitting in a silo, completely underutilized. And that simple fact is costing you time, money, and potentially someone's safety. Full digital work execution unlocks your data from its silos, meaning your data can be turned into decisions. It will then help you refine and improve your process if you release it, and more importantly, connect it into your systems. With this inevitable transition to digital, change can be daunting. While digitization offers clear benefits, the thought of overhauling established practices can be overwhelming, especially when your current systems are working quite well. Transitioning to a fully digital environment can feel like sailing into uncharted waters. However, understanding the challenges ahead and having a clear roadmap can help you chart a safe course, navigating the complexities of digitization with confidence. I'm just going to leave this slide up for a little while just to absorb and sink in. Again, feel free to give us a thumbs up in the chat if any of these resonate with you. Maybe you've encountered your own icebergs along the way. Would love to hear them again and get that feedback. But ensuring a smooth transition and long-term success depends on knowing where these metaphorical icebergs are hiding, and more importantly, how to avoid them. When that happens, you enjoy more of this and less of this. So needless to say, I'm thrilled to have Sunil Rodrigues from CITIC Pacific Mining with us today. Sunil brings extensive expertise in asset management and SAP, maintenance systems, and strategic planning. He's got a strong track record of driving innovation at major companies like Rio Tinto and BHP. He's uniquely positioned to offer valuable insights to us because recently Sunil embarked on his own digital transformation journey, making this is a great opportunity for us to explore some of the challenges and successes he's lived and breathed along the way. So, Sunil, welcome, and thank you for making the time to share your own journey with us today.
Thank you very much, Sam.
Before I go into your journey, because I did say it was quite an interesting one, I'd love to just frame the rest of the questions first with what initially led you and your team to explore digital work management in the first place.
So, Sam, we had a paper-based process where data was captured but not recorded effectively. We would miss critical information. There was no feedback loop from the inspection that we were doing. We did capture data, but not necessarily recorded it for reporting purposes. A few years ago, the WA government introduced the 2020 sort of Workplace Health and Safety Act, which required us to sort of keep track of all the inspections we do on registered and classified plant and make sure we had them for the life of the assets and beyond. The other thing we had was we had an incident a few years ago where a large sort of wheel loader got sort of damaged and burned down. And while going through the insurance claims, the lawyers and all ask you all these questions. They want hard copies. They want copies of all the inspections you have done. They want all the user manuals. They want to know what you did, what you didn't do. And we had a good archiving system stored in archive boxes offsite. So we had to get boxes brought back into the office and go through them, find the right work orders for them, and then scan them and send them off. At the same time, making sure that we didn't lose any of that information from the future. And, whatever we provided them, they kept asking more and more and more. Yeah. So I wanted to reduce all the reliance on archive boxes and archive paper copies because, that just deteriorates in age. You can't read them after some time. They get old. So we had to do something. We had to move forward.
So yeah, I can imagine going through that whole exercise would have been a case of frustration and thinking there's got to be a better way, right?
Yeah, that's correct. We had to look at other options, what's in the market, how we can improve this sort of, capturing of data and sort of using that data to make proper decisions.
Yeah. Can you share maybe some of your own icebergs that you encountered during your digital work management journey, and more importantly, then how you navigated those?
So when we first started this company, we had our own in-house application, and that's been evolving over time. We built it to create our inspection check sheets. So something that would spit out our check sheets quite easily. So we didn't have to use like Office Word and all that to create them. It started us and got through the initial sort of phases, initial years. So we looked through that. We tried to keep it constantly evolving to meet the demands of the rapidly digitizing world. That was a challenge for us. As you know, we are not a software company, we're a mining company. So trying to keep up to date with all the challenges coming in from Microsoft, from software providers, it was just a challenge with limited resources. So we started looking in the market, and we luckily found SAP Work Manager. And we implemented SAP Work Manager. We thought it was a good fit for us. Initially with that, we struggled to get support for customizations. The cost of customizations weren't sort of cheap. We had to spend a lot of money on it. And there were some shortfalls on the app. It did certain things good, certain things it didn't do good. We faced integration issues. We relied on PIDs in SAP to make sure the work orders came to the tablets. And that actually is just like put people off because they wouldn't see the work orders at some time. They would see them. They had to go and change PIDs, refresh tablets. And of course, we were still using a PDF copy on the tablets itself. Instead of using a paper and pen, we were actually using an electronic pen on the PDF or the tablets to mark up the PDF. So the data that we entered in there was just a hard copy in SAP. We couldn't use that data anyway.
It's essentially sounds like you're essentially digitizing the same problem you already had, right?
Yeah, and we didn't sort of have that connection between inspection task and defects. So we wanted to find a solution that we could handle all the processes from start to finish, and we could have some way of recording the data and actually using that data. At the same time, management and trades were also losing sort of confidence. They want to change. And for me, it was getting the right change, and so we didn't get burned down again.
Yeah, I can imagine that loss of confidence from the technician side of things is the kind of excuse or reason that tick and flicks happen, for instance.
Absolutely. And my philosophy is that every action should have a reaction. It needs to generate value, otherwise, it's a waste of time. Why do it if it's not adding any value in today's world? Because everyone, productivity is the most important thing that drives businesses. We record issues well when we don't have time, and that's it. That's where it ends. It's a recording done. Uh, when that happens, what you find is the inspections become performative rather than being preventative to sort of reduce your risk, to find change, to drive sort of decision making.
Yeah, I like that. That's the performative versus preventative is a great analogy there. What are some of the goals that you're looking to achieve from a digital work management environment?
So for me, there were a few things I wanted to achieve. One is I wanted technicians to easily share data, so they could enter readings, they could share that reading with their supervisors or superiors or peers. I wanted them to take photographs and record those photographs. And sometimes we want them to sign things so they can confirm that they've done it. Sometimes for our own good, sometimes for the requirements from legal requirements. I wanted them to confirm time and complete the task in real time. At the same time, I didn't want them to spend a lot of time trying to do manual things that sort of took them away from actually doing the task. So they could solve problems quicker and more accurately. I wanted to simplify the training process also. So I wanted to give them clear sort of step-by-step instructions that they could follow on while they're doing the inspections. As you mentioned before, there's always a skill shortage, and trying to sort of teach people to read things through manuals and all that, it's better if they got a digital check sheet that they can follow through and complete the task. And I want to reduce the reliance on paper. Paper is getting harder and harder to get nowadays, and I also look after the archiving. So post all this paperwork, I've got to then make sure these things get boxed up correctly and get sent off to a offsite archivist so they can keep them in there and we can retrieve them when we need. So it's a lot of paper, lots of things that we got to keep in.
Yeah.
I also wanted to give the technicians the latest procedures and instructions instead of printing a stale copy that was printed a week ago or a month ago and attached to a paper copy. So if there were latest copies, legally we're right. We also had people following the right sort of procedures in there. And like I said, we had been good at capturing data. Hard copies had many scribbles on it with data on there. But now it was to connect that data together so we could to make the inspections more preventative and we could use that data to do something better.
Yeah, you touched there on the fact that you've always been capturing data, not necessarily recording that data the most effectively. But now what you're saying is the most important part is connecting that data to complete that feedback loop. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. It is important for us to make use of that data and allow us to make better decisions. Because otherwise, like I said, it's a waste of time capturing the data and keeping it in archive boxes.
Yeah.
Without the data, we cannot optimize and we cannot do changes. So this will all help us to refine our processes, get better understanding of where our assets are, and also how we manage them going in the future.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about how you mitigated the risks of not compromising some of the processes that you knew were already working well for you during this transition?
So what we did was we adopted a phased approach. So we didn't want to disrupt the wider community that was actually doing work. And like I said, we got a large sort of asset base. We got many inspections. So we wanted to make sure the process was running without much disruptions to them. We first started by migrating all our documents that we got in SAP and our own in-house system to OnPlan. We kept the SAP links constant, so they were the same. So people before migration and after migration, didn't see any difference in there. The only difference was reauthoring or remodeling the check sheets. Instead of using a in-house solution, we now used OnPlan. So that way, the effort required was very much limited to a few people that actually modified documents and all that. So for most people, it didn't do much difference. They just kept running as they were running. We also began updating the documents and started to look at digitizing them. So things change when you got a hard copy to a digital sort of copy. So and because we didn't do a bulk sort of transformation, we had the options of doing it piece by piece and getting better at it as we went along. It also allowed us to do improvements along the way. We learned what we need to do. Just by doing this thing, we spoke to people within our team with the on-plan sort of resources, and we came up with sort of better ways of sort of managing our check sheets. It's a new process, so we got to learn as we go. We didn't want to run straight away. We wanted to learn how to walk and then start of run going through. And also it'll help us in our mobile sort of devices too, because we will sort of pick things up and will improve on it.
Yeah, I like that. What was different about this project implementation for you compared to your previous experiences? Because obviously you tried a few different things before this one.
Yeah, success for us was crucial in this sort of project because we already faced a few false starts, and we didn't want to go another path and then find out, that didn't work for us. That would just be the last thing we ever did. We wouldn't get any more funds for it. So we wanted to make sure we didn't fail this time. COSOL had a good sort of option for us with a phased approach. So we didn't go full bang on and disrupt everyone. So we did sort of a phased approach. We said we'll get what's critical for phase one, which was migrating all our PRTs or check sheets across. We did that, and then we looked at the SAP connectivity, and then we sort of look at the digital sort of versions. We early on in the piece, we did a demo of the app. So we got COSOL to sort of build some of the check sheets into a mobile app. We did a demo across site with key players, the execution team, and we got buy-in from them early on that this is something that will work for them. This is something that will entice them, and we got good feedback on that sort of demo sessions. And not having to use a PDF sort of application on a tablet, because we had so many different versions of PDF. Some worked with the Samsung tablet, some didn't work when new Android versions came in. So it was just a nightmare for us. So not having that PDF writer to sort of mark up PDF documents was a much better thing for us, and we didn't have to save copies and scan them and put them across or save them online to SAP itself on a tablet. So made the stuff easier for us to move along.
Yeah.
And we also had,
carry on.
Yeah, we also had the COSOL worked with us on connecting OnPlan with SAP. So we knew what we wanted, and we sort of sat down, discussed what we need, and we got things connected between SAP and work OnPlan. And that was a major sort of step for us to have something that we could define what we wanted, not something to get from a ready-made app that we had to sort of abide with.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah. What were there any unexpected benefits that you got out of this that you kind of hadn't anticipated when you began this journey?
Yeah, there's many benefits we'll pick up as we go along. But one of the few things I'll mention up was while we are doing the initial sort of roundup and demoing and testing, we are surprised to see the ability to capture safety information. Like for us, we got good to goes. Most people know them as take fives. We do them on little notepad, printed notepad, and we tear it off and we attach it to the work orders. I've had conversations with few people on site about these things go nowhere. They get archived in boxes, so we wanted to capture them in sort of an electronic format. And OnPlan's got the ability to do this. We'll look into that and we'll make it electronic so we can then sort of keep the records of what was done. we can sort of put that into our system and learn from the items we find in there, so we can improve on that. We
Yeah.
also found that we can attach sort of hazards and PPE to task, so we can then now enhance a task. So when the work order comes out with the sort of with the check sheet, when the guys know what PPE they need, what hazards are there, and that can help them in their JHEAs and safety sort of instructions. And I'm pretty sure we'll find many more as we go along. We haven't sort of gone through completely into what OnPlan does for us.
Yeah, yeah. I like the fact that it's really showing that you're making the data work for you. So, what a lot of people don't realize when they're doing this is that they're mining data, but they're not necessarily then using that data to then make better decisions. But that's something you're really embracing here.
Yeah, that's correct. I just remembered, I'll give another example. We've got a truck fleet of the dump trucks, and over time we might modify one of the trucks with a new component on it, different type for trial purposes. Now the check sheets change for that because the checks we're doing on the trial product might be different to the ones we do on the other trucks we got in that fleet. Now, as you know, SAP, you have to have another copy of a task list for that one equipment. Makes a lot harder for us to keep track of things, of changes. The good thing about OnPlan we noticed was we could actually put a check in there just for that asset. So when the work order came out for that asset, we could have the additional checks for that particular asset, and not sort of update or make the other sort of trucks in that fleet suffer from it. So it was a good option, and we do a lot of changes because things are getting expensive. We got to reduce cost, so making modifications and trialing things helps us do these things. So yeah, tracking these changes, making sure the check sheet gives the operator or the maintainer exactly what he needs to do for that asset helps us.
Yeah, I like that. Also, coming back to your point there, just about the good to goes, the take fives, it shows you've truly embraced the freedoms of digital and removed those physical boundaries or almost shackles that paper restricts you to. Instead of, having a tech take with them a huge binder of documentation and manuals, they have all of those essentially in a hyperlink within the new digital instructions, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Like I would say most organizations would spend a lot of time printing out work orders, just the effort that goes into printing, stapling them, putting them into packs for the tradespeople. Like you said, multiple folders and binders. Then when they complete that work, to get all the crappy, dirty copies, unstaple them to scan them back into the system and into SAP, and then stapling them back again to put in an archive box so they can all be together. Uh, we had to buy sort of stapling machines because some of the things you can't hand staple them. They're so sort of thick with procedures and policies and instructions that are already out of date. So yeah, for me, it's a valuable waste of time. You could spend that time reviewing the defects and making better decisions than trying to spend time stapling and doing more admin work.
I think in one of our previous meetings, you mentioned during COVID, there was actually a paper shortage as well, right?
Yeah, so we couldn't get paper, so we had to sort of go through all the different sort of providers. Like, we even went to a local IMS, and we went to OfficeWorks, Office Max, wherever we could get from overseas, and everyone was struggling the same because papers wouldn't come from China. So we had so much trouble getting papers. We had to limit what we could print.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're probably coming close to our Q&A time together, but I'd like probably just to ask this one last question to leave our audience with. If you had one piece of advice for other people that might be considering a digital transformation journey themselves, what would that be?
I would suggest that you determine upfront why you're doing this. What is the main reason that's driving you to do this? And then hone on it. Make sure that is there in front of you and center of everything you do go from there. Build on it here and don't lose focus of it. That'll drive you there. That'll reach your goals for you.
Yeah, I really like that because it is a long journey, especially if you go to full digital work execution. So ensuring that original reason and decision is the focal point for all your future decisions is quite critical, right?
Yeah, that reason will drive, it does provide you the focus to move on. On large projects like these, with all the given challenges, you got budget challenges, you got distractions, you got change management, just to name a few. You need to have a clear reason that can guide your decision making. And that is critical to provide you the clarity and support to move forward. And if you don't have that, you will never succeed.
Yeah, that's a great point to finish on the Q&A there, Sunil. Look, I think we're probably out of time there on this part. I do want to thank you for offering your valuable insights to us and the audience as well. I will ask if you can just to maybe stick around a bit longer, because we will open the floor to questions from the audience, and I'm sure you'll be able to provide some really valuable insights there as well. But before we do that, I will just jump over to the change management perspective that we've talked about quite a bit in this webinar so far, and you've alluded to yourself there, Sunil. As we've mentioned before, change, it can be scary, especially when you've already had success. But sometimes that extra push in the right direction can lead to even greater success. I promised in some of the promotional posts that you might have seen on LinkedIn along the way, there would be pop cultural references. It's one of my things that I do. We've already talked about Titanic and Kate and Jack and so on. But here is Fleetwood Mac. You might not recognize this photo because this is the lineup between 1968 and 1974. And during that period, they had some success. By all measures, they were successful. They toured the world, and they were a widely recognized act until 1974, when they made, you could argue, a significant change to their lineup, where they brought in Christine McVie, you've got Lindsey Buckingham there, and you've got Stevie Nicks as well. Now, this far more recognized lineup saw them rocket to meteoric success. They had #1 album after the other, Grammy Awards, and so on. Suffice to say, they are now one of the biggest selling bands of all time. Much of that is down to the leadership of Mick Fleetwood, who had a vision for constant improvement, and they achieved this through change. Before opening the floor and passing back to Matt, I'll leave you with this quote: "To improve is to change. To be perfect is to change often." That's not Mick Fleetwood. That's not out of Titanic. That was from Winston Churchill. And with that, I'll pass back over to Matt.
Thanks, Sam. You did promise an analogy, so yeah, much appreciated. And Sunil, thank you so much for going through a lot of that information and living through some of the past pains and also some of the success that you've garnered. Look, the floor is going to be open to Q&As. There is at the top of the menu bar a Q&A section that you're welcome to drop questions into. We also have Ed Piggott, who is kind of there available for anything from a technical point of view. But we've got a couple of questions in already, and I suppose there's a big people component to this. So, Sunil, it would be great to kind of get your view, again, given on the journey that you've been through. But one of the things that gets raised is there's a kind of continual conversation that my entire site isn't ready to go digital. It would be great to kind of get your insight on that from a, kind of change management, a people point of view, how to best kind of navigate that kind of situation.
Yeah, so it's the same for us also, because you cannot sort of deploy thousands of tablets in sort of one hit. So what we're doing is we say, if you're ready for it, you go for it. So we're doing little pilots in departments that are ready for it. And like I said in my sort of talk with Sam, we kept the status quo. So we kept digital copies, we kept hard copies also. So we're not sort of terminating the hard copies. So people can still do what they were doing today, but the people that want to move across can move across, and slowly we'll migrate everyone to the digital world. As people watch other people. So as soon as you see people recording stuff, using that stuff, people will follow on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I suppose the other one that we hear, and sometimes it's about, movement of digital transformation versus, those people kind of executing the work, is how disruptive will it be on my kind of team's daily workflow? And how do you have that conversation across the business with kind of the relevant stakeholders?
It will be disruptive to some people that, you got to learn how to use tablets and all that. You got to do all that stuff. But what I look at is you can gain time by sort of not having to do some of the repetitive work that you did before. And that time you can utilize to sort of learn more how to use those tablets up, how to follow the digital sort of world. One thing that you can do is once you got data recorded, reported, you can start reducing your check sheets. Some checks you do don't add value. And if you can remove those non-value adding tasks going future, it'll get better. Now, that doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey you got to follow. And like I said, if you keep focus of why you're doing this and you just follow that focus throughout your journey, you'll find results coming in. There are the naysayers will always complain about things, but you just got to sort of jump into it and do it. The world is getting digital now. It's not just us requiring these things, but everything's getting digital. If you look at Facebook and all that, you can put comments in, and thousands of people will see that comment quickly, and that's where the world is now. You got to put some checks in. People can see what you're doing and report on it and improve on it.
And presumably that was part of your business case to the business, right? Is demonstrating the value and how it will be achieved.
That's correct. And we always stress the point that we'll never get 100% utilization of tablets from day one or even in the first 6 months. It'll take some time. It'll take time to sort of improve the check sheets. It'll take time for people to understand how the tablets work, buy tablets. It takes time. So as long as you're patient enough to follow that path, we'll get there.
It's good to know. So it sounds like patience is the number one virtue. Thanks, Sunil. Sam, anything else to add from yourself before we kind of wrap up the session today? Just tracking to see if any other kind of questions come in. Ed, I know that you're just filtering through those.
Oh, look, Sunil, the point you just made before about being able to have like a hybrid scenario whilst you're rolling out, be able to do digitally and on paper at the same time. The beauty of that with this system is that you don't have to do them in parallel universes, in parallel systems, right? You can do that all in one, and you can turn on or off one or the other at any given point when you're ready, right?
That's correct. You can point when you're ready. You can have certain workforce teams doing digital, some doing paper copies. You can have one team doing both at the same time. People like contractors who don't give digital tablets, you can give them paper copies, and both exist alongside each other. So that's the beauty about this is the hybrid sort of thing. You can coexist. They can coexist together, and that sort of helps you sort of reduce cost. Also make sure people that are tough to sort of move towards change can still keep doing what they were doing yesterday and continue on that till they see the benefit of it and migrate across.
And we just got one last question as we've got 5 minutes to go, and it's just, why would I invest in this type of digital work management if my maintenance strategy is run to failure? I'd love to kind of get the points on that final question from you both.
Well,
Yeah, so
you go, Sunil.
No, you go.
Okay. Yeah, look, I mean, just from an OnPlan perspective, OnPlan can enhance a run to failure strategy by reducing unplanned outages, identifying safety risks, and helping predict end of life. This can ensure you're prepared with the right resources and minimizing downtime, improving reliability, and so on, even when an asset runs to failure. So it is part of the strategy part of OnPlan that you can still have that strategy within your system and processes.
Yeah, and from my side, I would say like most of the sort of companies would never have a complete run to failure sort of strategy. They would have some inspections to do some checks and all that. So,
Yeah.
as you today you might be doing 10% of those checks and 90% of your run to failure strategies, but over time, capturing the data, recording it will help you improve from the 10% to migrate towards a 50-50 sort of person in a few years' time.
Yeah.
And that will help you out.
Yeah, a run to failure strategy, it doesn't mean no maintenance, it's still involved there. So, it's still a valid strategy within the software component of OnPlan.
And also the run to fail strategy will never sustain you financially. So you'll have to migrate towards a better sort of way of doing it. And as I mentioned before, when you have assets that get burned down or damaged and you're claiming insurance, you need to provide proof that you've been doing the right things. So having something like this will help you. Of course, it'll take some time, but that's where you got to move towards, show people the sort of benefits of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well, look, that wraps our session today. So I really appreciate the time, Sam, of yourself and also Sunil. Thank you so much for kind of imparting that information. Anyone that's attended the session, feel free, if you want, to be able to reach out to Sunil or Sam around some of their insights to kind of navigating kind of digital work management and also some of the benefits in and around OnPlan. Please do. Our view is expert guidance makes all the difference. And with OnPlan, we see it as more than just a software. It's navigating complexities with the expertise that the COSOL business can put behind it with our extensive experience in asset maintenance and industry knowledge. And we're really, plugged into customer feedback. So continuously refining based on research with customers and such as Sunil and, kind of really looking to address specific changes. So I thank everyone for their time today. And again, Sunil and Sam, thank you for taking us through that information. It's been a really interesting discussion.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Matt.